The alarm blared at 6:39 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. My eyes fluttered open. Time to get this over with, I thought, as I reached for my phone. For those of you who love finished novels, you can't miss this sweet story that starts at 9:08 a.m. You can read it all in one sitting. The main story begins now. I eloped with a man I met through a dating app, only to discover he was my university professor. After his class, I bolted, but he caught up to me at the campus gates in his car. "Running from your husband? You weren't so shy when you dragged me to get hitched yesterday," he said, a smirk playing on his lips. I knew something was off when I walked into class today. Usually, for an 8 a.m. class, the lecture hall would be half empty, and the few students present would be catching up on sleep in the back rows. But today, the room was packed, everyone wide awake and sitting up front. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if I was still dreaming. "Hey, Summer, over here." My best friend, Chloe, waved me over. She looked smug, proud of snagging a seat. I stared at the second row seat, less than 10 feet from the podium, and just paused. "Are you trying to catch the professor's spit or chalk dust from here?" I asked. "You don't get it," she whispered excitedly as I sat down. "There's a new professor today, and I heard he's super rich. Like, he's the CEO of some big shot company." "So what? That's not exactly news in the finance department," I replied, shrugging. "Most of our professors are big deals outside of school, even if they seem normal on campus. Have you been on too many dates lately or something?" I fell silent. She was right. My brain felt completely fried from all the dates my dad had set up. He had this crazy idea that I needed to be married before graduating college, so he'd lined up a ridiculous number of guys. I was seeing 3 new people a day, barely keeping up. Everyone saying this new professor is incredibly handsome. "Didn't you notice how everyone's dressed up today?" Chloe asked. I scanned the room, noticing the students with their perfectly made-up eyes and lips. "What's his name?" I asked casually. "Ethan Miller," she said. My heart sank. No way, I thought. My date from yesterday was also named Ethan Miller, and we totally eloped. Lost in thought, the bell suddenly rang. A man in a tailored suit walked in. Gasps filled the room. "He's so hot. Like, seriously attractive," someone whispered. "Is our professor some kind of celebrity? He'd totally dominate Hollywood." The man before me had a strong, chiseled face and impeccably styled hair. His gold-rimmed glasses gave him a scholarly look, but his every movement exuded an undeniable air of sophistication. And the most shocking part? He was my husband. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Ethan Miller," he said, writing his name on the board. He began a simple introduction. I stared at him, my mind flashing back to yesterday. My mom had called, gushing about another great match she'd found for me, successful and handsome. I'd heard it all before and usually found myself facing another dud. I just wanted to get through the date quickly, but then he stood in front of me, and I froze. "Are you Miss Summer Green?" he asked. My breath hitched. He was so gorgeous. I instantly thought, I have to marry him. What surprised me even more was how quickly he agreed when I brought up marriage. "The courthouse is still open. We could do it today?" he suggested. 2 hours later, I was holding a freshly minted marriage certificate, but nobody told me he was going to be my professor. I buried my face in my hands, wishing class would just end. "All right, let's have a student answer this one. Summer Green, you, please answer question number 11, he said. I stood up, completely bewildered. Was it possible he hadn't recognized me? Chloe looked at me, helpless. I hadn't heard a single word of his lecture. "I'm sorry, I don't know," I mumbled. The class burst into laughter. He adjusted his glasses, then consulted his attendance sheet, writing something down. "Very honest. You get extra credit. Please sit down," he said. I looked up, astonished. Me, the queen of skipping class, getting extra credit for not knowing an answer? "Teacher, you give extra credit even if we don't know the answer? You're so nice," someone yelled from the back. Ethan Miller smiled, surveying the room. "If you all could answer every question, what would be left for me to do as a teacher? It's okay not to know everything, but it's worse to pretend you do." "I appreciate honesty," he said. His high EQ response earned him applause. With 10 minutes left until class ended, he had finished his lecture. "Any questions?" he asked. "Professor, do you have a girlfriend?" someone blurted out. I looked up, meeting his gaze. He raised his left hand, revealing a wedding band on his ring finger. "I'm married," he announced. Groans filled the room. Others began to ask more questions. I, meanwhile, nervously hid my left hand, as I wasn't wearing my wedding ring. We had bought it spontaneously at a jewelry store after getting our marriage certificate. "Professor, can we get your contact info?" someone else asked, already pulling out their phone. "I apologize, but my wife checks my phone," he said. "My teaching assistant will create a group chat later. You can ask questions there or in class." Chloe sadly put her phone away. "That's such a shame, married so young. His wife must be really strict," she lamented. "Not me. I don't even know his phone password," I thought. Finally, the bell rang. A group of students rushed to the podium to talk to Ethan Miller. "Wow, they're fast. Come on, Summer, let's go," Chloe urged, but when she turned, I was already at the door. "No way. If I didn't leave now, when would I?" I sprinted out, reaching the campus gates out of breath. Just as I stepped outside, a car pulled up in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Ethan Miller's face. "Running from your husband? You weren't so timid yesterday when you dragged me to get hitched," he teased. "How was I supposed to know you were my professor?" I retorted, instantly filled with regret. I should have asked more questions yesterday, I thought. "No more classes? Get in," he said. I shook my head, taking a step back. "Actually, I have plans," I mumbled. "Where are you going?" "I'll give you a ride," he said, chuckling. He gestured behind me. I saw several students heading towards the gate. Oh no, if they see us together, it'll be a disaster. Without thinking, I jumped into the car. Ethan Miller started the engine. "What are your plans now?" he asked casually. "If you're free, maybe we could go see the wedding house?" The wedding house was less than a 10-minute walk from the university. When he'd asked me where I wanted to live after we got married, I was so eager to get the marriage certificate to appease my dad that I'd casually pointed to the most expensive apartment complex in the city center. "The biggest one, the kind where I can run around freely," I'd said. He'd just smiled, and I hadn't thought anything of it. I certainly didn't expect him to actually buy a unit there and put my name on it. My hand had trembled when I signed the papers. My family wasn't poor, but I still felt like I was marrying into serious money. The house was move-in ready and fully furnished. All it needed was a few personal touches. I walked around, stunned. "Forget running around. I could fly in here if I wanted to. This is the interior designer. Just tell him what you have in mind," Ethan Miller said, gesturing to a man standing behind him. The man had a gentle smile. "Hello, Mrs. Miller. What kind of style are you looking for?" he asked. I was still getting used to being called Mrs. Miller. The designer showed me a few examples. "What's your budget?" he asked. "I can show you some options," Ethan Miller, sitting beside me, said calmly. "Budget isn't an issue, as long as my wife likes it, and it makes her want to come home." The designer chuckled awkwardly, looking like he understood. "This guy is so petty, he's definitely still mad about me running out of class," I thought. Seeing his calm expression, I decided to give him a hard time. "Let's start with the living room. Anything you want to add or change?" the designer asked. "I don't like this couch. It's not comfortable enough. I want a bigger one," I said, pointing to the most expensive one on the tablet. "This one, I love it." I glanced at Ethan Miller. His face was expressionless. "Whatever you like," he said. "Fine, you asked for it," I thought. I immediately picked out several more pieces of furniture, choosing not just the expensive ones, but the ones I genuinely liked. The designer wiped his forehead, his smile growing wider, and his voice noticeably lighter. By the end, the total was almost $1 million. I looked at Ethan Miller, worried, but he remained unfazed. He even took the tablet and picked out a few more items himself. "Look, what else do you like?" he asked. I steeled myself. "I want to turn that room into a music room with floor-to-ceiling windows. And I want a grand piano in there," I declared. "Do you have a preference for the piano?" he asked. "How about we turn the south-facing bedroom into a walk-in closet?" he suggested. By the end, both the designer and I were stunned. The designer's hand trembled as he took the tablet. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, you two are truly in love," he gushed. Ethan Miller chuckled, taking my hand. "The new house will take some time to furnish, so for now, I'm staying at Ethan Miller's current place." It was also in the city center, less than 300 feet from the new house. 2 houses in such a prime location. It was unbelievable. That evening, Chloe called. Ethan Miller was in the bathroom, showering. The moment I answered, Chloe's excited voice rang out. Summer, I just found Professor Miller's name on the Forbes list. Oh my God, his name is so high up there. Everyone else on the list is like 50 or 60 years old. Professor Miller is a breath of fresh air. Thanks, I already found that out today, I said dryly. It's such a shame that such an amazing person is married, she continued. His wife must be some kind of superwoman to hold on to a man like that. I stayed silent, not daring to admit that I was married to Ethan Miller. I must have been so engrossed in the conversation that I didn't even notice the bathroom door open. The next thing I knew, Ethan Miller had wrapped his arms around me from behind. Who are you talking to? He murmured. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Is that a man's voice? Who's with you? Who's that random guy? Chloe screamed through the phone. I wanted to explain, but the words wouldn't come out. Ethan Miller turned his head, looking at me, waiting. What? Are you not going to give me a title? He asked. It was the first time I'd seen him this close. His face, still damp from the shower, and without his glasses. His eyes were incredibly deep and captivating. His beauty made my heart skip a beat. It's my husband, I finally managed. As soon as the words left my lips, Ethan Miller smiled, satisfied, and kissed me. Your husband? When did you get married? Chloe was still shouting. Ethan Miller reached out and hung up the phone. All right, now it's just us, he said. The next day, I arrived at class with dark circles under my eyes, barely making it on time. Thankfully, Chloe had saved me a seat. As soon as I sat down, she leaned over. Spill, who's your husband? And when did you get married? She demanded. It's all my dad's fault, pushing me to get married so fast. I explained. He said I'd be an old maid if I waited until after graduation. Chloe stared at me intently. Is that the only reason you married him? Because your family pressured you? I fell silent. Of course, there were other reasons. The truth was, the moment I saw Ethan Miller, my heart had stopped. How could I let such a handsome man get away and end up with someone else? After class, Chloe continued to pester me about who he was. I walked quickly, knowing Ethan Miller was waiting at the gate to take me to lunch. I hadn't even reached the school entrance when someone blocked my path. A shy, sweet-looking young man, holding a large bouquet of flowers, extended them toward me. His ears were bright red. Summer, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? He blurted out. Chloe, looking like she was enjoying the drama, chimed in. Sorry, kid, you're too late. Your senior is already married. The young man's face fell. Senior, don't lie to me. Who's your husband? I am. As soon as Ethan Miller spoke, he was standing in front of me. Everyone froze. Chloe's eyes widened. The young man looked like he was about to cry. Senior, I just confessed my feelings to you. How could you lie to me? He wailed. Ethan Miller stepped forward, took my hand, and showed off his matching diamond ring. Confessing isn't about getting into a relationship. It's about expressing your feelings, he said. Besides, we already belong to each other. You don't stand a chance. Wow. A total power move. His words shattered the young man's confidence. He ran off, clutching his flowers. Ethan Miller then turned to my stunned best friend. Sorry, I'm taking Summer out for lunch. We'll be going now. Chloe finally snapped out of it, taking a step back. No way. Summer, you went from my classmate to my professor's wife. Chloe, despite her shock, kept our secret. After all, it would be awkward to announce that I was married to our professor. Once the wedding house was fully decorated, Ethan Miller and I officially moved in. Everything inside was exactly how I liked it. Ethan Miller always accommodated me and supported everything I did. He even indulged my small quirks. One night, I woke up to use the restroom and found him in my walk-in closet. He was replacing the labels on my clothes with larger sizes after removing the originals. I had been wondering why my clothes hadn't gotten tighter despite how much I'd been eating, thinking my workouts were just that effective. I told my mom about it, and she just chuckled. That means he really likes you and cares about your feelings, she said. He can also help you with your problems. Bring him to meet us when you have a chance. It suddenly hit me that I hadn't introduced Ethan Miller to my parents yet. My dad had been so adamant about me getting married quickly, and my mom, accustomed to following his lead, had started arranging all those dates. I brought Ethan Miller home. My family had prepared a lavish dinner, and we all ate together, enjoying each other's company. Afterward, as Ethan Miller and I drove home, I was dozing in the passenger seat, countless thoughts swirling in my mind. If you had met someone else on that date, would you have married them too? I wondered. during a red light. Ethan Miller reached for a blanket from the back seat and draped it over me. It wasn't until the car started moving again that I heard his voice. "No, I'm not a casual person," he said. "It was only because it was you that I agreed to the date." Unfortunately, I was too sleepy to hear the rest of what he said. Half a month later, as I was walking to class, my mom called. Her voice was trembling, on the verge of tears. "Summer, your father wants a divorce," she sobbed. I froze, my mind struggling to process her words. "What are you talking about? How is that possible?" "It's true. If your dad hadn't told me himself, I wouldn't believe it either. He even sent the divorce papers," she cried. I turned and ran out of school, hailing a taxi to go home. In my mind, my parents had always had a loving relationship. My mom had been a stay-at-home wife for years, managing the household perfectly. They rarely argued, so how could they suddenly be getting a divorce? When I arrived home, my mom was sitting on the sofa, looking dazed. Seeing me, she rushed over and hugged me, sobbing, "Your dad suddenly said he wanted a divorce yesterday, and today he sent the divorce papers. What am I going to do?" I read through the divorce papers, then tried calling my dad, but he didn't answer. It wasn't until evening that he finally came home. "Summer, you have school tomorrow. Go back home now," he said. "No. Explain this to me. Why are you suddenly getting a divorce?" I demanded. My dad looked down, while my mom continued to cry. I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. A harmonious family, in an instant, had fallen apart. Ethan Miller hadn't been able to reach me all day and had called my phone countless times. Once I told him my location, he rushed over. I stood by the roadside, shivering. His car pulled up in front of me. He got out, his steps hurried, his face stern. He chastised me as he draped his jacket over me. "Why did you skip my class? And why weren't you answering your phone? Shouldn't you be punished?" he demanded. I raised my head, tears streaming down my face, my hands covering my eyes. Ethan Miller froze, swallowing his words. "What's wrong? What happened?" he asked. I dropped my guard and threw myself into his arms. "I don't have a home anymore," I sobbed. It was a dramatic, almost cliched story, but it was happening to my family. When my dad was younger, he had loved a woman, but my grandfather had adamantly refused to let them marry, arranging a business marriage with my mom instead. For all these years, my dad had seemingly moved on, but he had kept that woman a secret in his heart. Until 6 months ago, that woman had found my dad again, bringing with her a set of twins, a boy and a girl, who were a year older than me. A DNA test confirmed they were his children. I cursed at my dad, until he grew angry. "You're married now, don't get involved in these matters," he snapped. It was then that I realized, no wonder my dad had been so eager for me to get married quickly for the past 6 months. He had already made his plans. Overnight, my family shattered. I sobbed uncontrollably in Ethan Miller's arms. He held me tight, patting my back. "It's okay," he whispered. "You still have me. Don't be sad. No matter what happens, I'll be by your side." The next day, we went to see my dad. My uncle was also there. My mom, for the first time, spoke with defiance. "I insist on a divorce," she said. "If you had just said you still loved that woman, I might have tried to salvage things. But you even have 2 children who are older than Summer, and now you want to bring them into our home. I can't accept this. We have to divorce." My dad let out a long sigh, and I watched, feeling a sting in my eyes. Then came the matter of asset distribution. My dad was surprisingly generous, leaving the house and cars to my mom. However, he remained silent about the company shares. "Who do you plan to leave the company to? Your illegitimate children?" I asked. My dad's eyes darted away. "After all, I need someone to inherit it," he mumbled. "Summer is already married. What a great plan. He even tricked his own daughter," I thought, clenching my fists. As I watched my uncle and dad argue, Ethan Miller took my hand. "Do you want the company?" he asked. I looked at him, confused. He repeated, "If you want the company, I can help you get it." I nodded. After all, my parents had founded the company together, and I refused to see it fall into the hands of his illegitimate children. "I'll handle it," Ethan Miller said, his voice resolute, which brought a sense of peace to my heart. In the end, my parents divorced. My dad gave my mom a small portion of his shares. My mom, without a word, transferred all her shares to my name. I had wanted her to live with me, but she glanced at Ethan Miller, then shook her head. "You two just live your lives well," she said. Your grandparents are still doing well. I think I'll go back and be a spoiled lady again. She managed a faint smile, which only made me feel worse. Unexpectedly, my dad's first love also showed up, with her son and daughter. The man glanced at me and called me sister. I scoffed. Illegitimate children don't get to call me sister, I thought. The woman beside him said nothing, her eyes fixed on Ethan Miller. Another, slightly older woman, forced a smile. Maybe Summer hasn't accepted us yet. It's okay, we'll be a family eventually, she said. My dad nodded along. He even urged me to call the woman Aunt Lisa. Ethan Miller and I exchanged a look. No need, he said. Summer is very particular about cleanliness. It's best not to let such people contaminate her. As we left, my dad's face was dark. From that day on, I cut off all contact with them, only visiting my mom occasionally. To be honest, her complexion had improved significantly since she'd returned home. My grandparents had always doted on her, and my uncle treated her well too. It was certainly better than constantly having to cater to my dad's moods. Once, while Ethan Miller and I were shopping, we ran into my dad's first love. Her name was Lisa Green. I heard they were now married, and her 2 children had even taken my dad's surname. Their names were Sarah Green and Sophia Green. My grandfather nearly died of anger at the sudden appearance of 2 more grandchildren. For the first time, he used a cane to beat my dad. Lisa Green had just walked out of a luxury store, carrying several bags. Sarah immediately greeted me, a hint of superiority in her voice. Sister, why don't you ever come home? We're family, after all. Or does Dad not want to see you? Sophia, meanwhile, continued to stare at Ethan Miller, her eyes practically begging to snatch him away. Like mother, like daughter. A mistress's daughter will grow up to be a mistress too, I thought. I ignored them and pulled Ethan Miller away. Even after we left the mall, I still couldn't shake my anger. Ethan Miller patted my hand, comforting me softly. Don't worry, they won't be happy for long, he said. The higher they fly, the harder they'll fall. His words made me feel a little better. As I spent more time with him, I realized that Ethan Miller was not as modest and easygoing as he appeared. He managed such a huge company, aggressively expanding in the business world, yet he still taught part-time at the university. His mind was truly extraordinary. So why did you decide to teach at the university? I asked. Because of a certain someone, Ethan Miller said, kissing my cheek. But every time I pressed for more details, he would clam up. I just couldn't remember when I had met him before our date. A month later, my dad suddenly called. After his divorce from my mom, he used to call me often, but I would either ignore him or answer only to chew him out. Over time, he stopped calling. Ethan Miller was sitting beside me, reading. When the caller ID flashed, he chuckled. Looks like it's your turn to make your move, he murmured. I immediately answered the phone. As expected, my dad's voice was full of flattery. Summer, are you busy lately? Want to come home for dinner tonight? I'll ask Aunt Lisa to make some good dishes for you. No thanks. I'm afraid she'll poison my food, I replied. My dad had claimed for 2 decades that he hadn't been in contact with this woman, but my own investigation had shown they had been secretly involved all along. Then I'll ask Mrs. Garcia to cook for you. You always loved her cooking, didn't you? He pleaded. Mrs. Garcia was our family's cook, and I did genuinely like her food. Fine, I'll come if I have time, I said. Great, it's settled then. You absolutely have to come tonight. And bring Ethan with you, he pressed. I knew then that inviting me back was just a pretext. He wanted Ethan Miller to come. As expected, when we arrived home, the table was laden with food. My dad even brought out some expensive, rare wine. The 3 of them sat together, a picture of domestic bliss, which only disgusted me. Let me pour a drink for my brother-in-law, Sophia said, eagerly reaching for the wine. It was late winter, and even with the heating on, the temperature indoors wasn't high. Yet, she was wearing a revealing red slip dress, swaying her hips as she approached. Her intentions were clear. Ethan Miller directly threw the wine glass to the floor. Everyone froze. His voice was icy. We haven't even started eating, and my appetite is already ruined, he said. Wife, maybe we should just go home. I nodded, standing up to leave. My dad quickly stopped us. Sophia, sit down. Summer, you sit down too. Let's all have a nice family dinner, he urged. Dad, they're not my family, I said, eyeing the mother and her 2 children. All 3 were glaring at me. I couldn't eat a single bite with any of them in the room. My dad hesitated for a long moment, then finally sent the three of them upstairs. Once we were seated again, my dad refilled the wine glasses before finally explaining why he'd called. It turned out his company was facing a crackdown and needed Ethan Miller to invest a large sum. My uncle, after all, wasn't one to back down, and with my mom having suffered so much, he wouldn't let it go. Plus, with Ethan Miller's involvement, my dad's company was suddenly on the brink of collapse. I remained silent, focusing on my food. Ethan Miller was busy peeling shrimp for me. "If you like this aunt's cooking, we can poach her," he said. My dad quickly nodded. "I'll have Mrs. Garcia go with you right away," he said. After we finished eating, Ethan Miller finally met my dad's gaze. "The investment isn't a problem," he said. "It can be disbursed within a month. However, a portion of the shares must be transferred to Summer." As soon as he spoke, Sarah jumped out from the staircase. "Why, Dad said all the shares are mine. The company is mine," she shrieked. I stared, dumbfounded, at the man throwing a tantrum in front of me. "Leaving the company in your hands would be an embarrassment. If it's given to someone like you, the company will go under eventually," I thought. My dad hesitated, struggling, then finally looked at me. "Summer, why do you need so many shares? Managing a company is tiring," he said. "It's fine," I replied. "I'm a finance major. I'm sure I can do a better job than someone who didn't even go to college." Ethan Miller chimed in at the right moment. "Besides, with me helping Summer, there won't be any problems." My dad still didn't budge. We left after dinner. Later, I overheard Ethan Miller on the phone, saying he would increase the pressure. Exam week was approaching, and Ethan Miller still hadn't revealed any key topics for the exam. Everyone was getting anxious. Chloe started asking me to get inside information about his exam. So, as the class representative, that night I snuggled into Ethan Miller's arms, trying to coax some exam questions out of him. "Don't worry, I'll tell you the key topics. No need to be nervous," he said. But when I got to class, I was speechless. Ethan Miller calmly held his textbook and announced, "The key topics for the exam are all the questions I asked in class. I guarantee they'll appear on the test, word for word." That night, in the unofficial class group chat without the professor or teaching assistant, students were furiously compiling all the questions he had asked in class, while simultaneously cursing Ethan Miller for being a beast. Little did they know that while I was showering, Ethan Miller had already read all their messages. My dad held out for half a month, but finally gave in and called me. Ethan Miller immediately sent over a share transfer agreement. Now, the shares I held made me the largest shareholder in the company. The day before the shareholders' meeting, Ethan Miller handed me a sealed document. "A gift for Sarah," he said. "Make sure you open it in front of everyone, okay? Go get him, little CEO." "No problem. Get ready for little CEO to conquer the business world," I declared confidently. The next day, I walked into the conference room with confidence, files in hand. Beside me were Ethan Miller and Paige, my assistant, who had reportedly worked with him for years. Her ability to read situations and gather information was top-notch. As expected, the moment I entered, Sarah tried to put me in my place. "Why are you, a woman, getting involved in this? You should just stay home and raise kids," she sneered. "Just get married after you graduate and be a good wife and mother." The shareholders sitting below remained silent. Even my dad tried to reason with me. "Summer, the business world isn't as simple as you think. You need to consider this carefully. This isn't a game. I've thought it through," I said. "After all, if the company stays in your hands, it'll eventually go bankrupt. It's safest with me." With that, I had my assistant open the files. "I've compiled the company's financial performance for the past few years," I began. "Honestly, ever since Grandpa handed over the company, its profits have been steadily declining. Especially this year, it's been a freefall. I have to say, Dad, you're getting old. It's time for you to retire," I stated. The truth was, my grandpa had managed the company until I started college. Once I began university, he felt he was losing his touch and handed it over to my dad. Since high school, my grandpa had taught me a lot about management. "Your dad isn't cut out for business. You have more talent. Grandpa should focus on training you," he used to say. Grandpa had originally planned for me to take over after graduation, but after the divorce, Grandpa had called me back to the old mansion and handed me a stack of documents. "Study hard. My empire cannot fall in your hands, or I won't rest in peace." I had already met with several key shareholders privately. After my presentation, they all stood up and expressed their support. My dad's face was dark, and he was breathing heavily. "Your dad isn't dead yet. Why are you in such a hurry?" he gasped. "No choice, Dad. At this rate, the company will die first," I replied. Sarah, across the table, gritted her teeth and slammed her hand down. "I don't accept this. I'm Dad's only son. Why should the company be in your hands?" I said nothing, simply opened the file and tossed it in front of everyone. Inside were all the scandalous things Sarah had done over the years: bullying, gang fights, gambling, public assault. She was a menace. The shareholders sitting near her subtly shifted their chairs away, afraid of being implicated. "I have even more explosive stuff here. Want to see?" I asked. After the meeting, I successfully became the controlling shareholder of the company. My dad looked at me, his lips moving soundlessly for a long time. "Summer, Dad," he began. "It's all right," I said. "Don't worry, I won't shortchange you on your retirement. But as for those three, I can't help them." The company, freshly taken over, presented a mountain of problems. I found myself constantly shuttling between school and the company. Finally, Ethan Miller couldn't bear to watch any longer. He hired a manager for me. "Let the manager handle things for now, and we'll talk again after you graduate," he suggested. I was already stretched thin, so I could only nod in agreement. But before I could even breathe a sigh of relief, exam week began. I hadn't studied at all and was completely unprepared. I chose a few subjects I felt most confident in and pulled all-nighters to review and fill in the gaps. Ethan Miller watched me, raising an eyebrow. "Are you sure you're just filling in gaps and not learning new material?" he teased. I chuckled awkwardly. Exam week finally ended. I collapsed onto the bed, completely exhausted. Ethan Miller sat beside me, massaging my shoulders. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Do you think you passed?" I nodded, letting out a long breath. "What about my class?" he prompted. I immediately went silent. During the exam, I had been completely baffled. I even started wondering if Ethan Miller had really asked those questions in class. After all, I had written before 10 consecutive questions, which made me doubt everything. It was true what everyone said. Ethan Miller was indeed ruthless. He increased the pressure of his massage, and I let out a soft groan of pain. I turned over and hugged his arm, whining, "Honey, I'm so bad at this." Ethan Miller leaned down and kissed me, whispering in my ear, "Sweetheart, if you don't listen in class, you'll fail." So, what exactly did marriage bring to a woman? Finally, my grades came out. Luckily, I passed with a low score, barely skirting the edge of failure. Chloe nearly died laughing. But then another problem arose. Because I had taken so many breaks, I hadn't earned enough credits this semester. This was a major issue. I tried every possible solution, until Ethan Miller calmly pulled out our marriage certificate. "A national certificate can add 2 credits, he said. I stared at the marriage certificate, stunned. When the academic advisor was tallying certificates, I quietly submitted our marriage license. My marriage to the professor became a campus legend. Thankfully, we had gotten married before Ethan Miller taught his first class at the university. Otherwise, it would have been hard to explain. However, Ethan Miller only taught for 1 semester. He left me to face the students' gossip alone at the start of the next semester. "Why did you only teach for 1 semester? I was going to pay more attention in your class next semester," I complained. "You were either sleeping in class or playing on your phone." "Do you really think I'd believe that?" Ethan Miller asked, reaching out to caress my face. "Because I only wanted to teach at your university to meet you," he explained. "But I was afraid you'd distance yourself if you knew I was your professor, so I only taught for a short time." My heart warmed. "When did you first see me?" I pressed. "You never tell me." Ethan Miller was silent for a moment. Finally, he carried me into his study. He sat in his desk chair, and I sat on his lap. He pulled open a drawer and retrieved a small, delicate album. Inside, he found a small photograph. "Isn't this my photo?" I exclaimed. It was a picture of me from high school, with my silly bangs and a ponytail. "I noticed you when you participated in that competition," he said. "I just didn't dare to approach you, afraid I'd distract you. By the time the competition ended, you were already gone. You left your admission ticket there." I suddenly remembered. I had indeed participated in a competition in high school. I was so focused on my pre-competition training that I hadn't paid any attention to the other participants. I ended up performing exceptionally well and even submitted my paper early. Wait a minute, I said. I remember throwing my admission ticket in the trash. You rummaged through the trash? I asked. Ethan Miller immediately looked away, a hint of guilt in his eyes. No, it just happened to be on top, so I picked it up, he mumbled. You totally rummaged through the trash. I burst out laughing. I couldn't believe Ethan Miller had once gone through a trash can for my picture, and that he had thought about me for all these years. Perhaps I was laughing too loudly, because he playfully pounced on me, covering my mouth with a kiss. Outside, the sunlight streamed in. Inside the room, two lovers embraced, sharing a sweet kiss, basking in the warmth of winter.